you mentioned a lot of the research projects that you've been involved with. So how did you actually go about getting involved with these projects? And is there any advice you would offer to high school or undergraduate students looking to find such research positions?
Sure, and that's a great question. It's true that when you're first starting out and in high school, I didn't know very much about research. You kind of just try to get your foot in the door and kind of orient yourself in a direction that you know that you're interested in. And so like as a high school student, that's why I did like the specialist high skills major, and kind of you're just kind of constantly looking for opportunities to whatever is in your reach to kind of say like, okay, this is my interest, and then it just builds and builds and builds from there. So when I was actually in high school, I didn't know very much about research. I didn't know how to get involved with that at that stage. But when I was in first year, again, looking for opportunities, seeing whatever is on when you guys go to university, there'll be a lot of information, of course, coming your way, but I'm sure that you'll always have your eye out for first year student opportunities that might be advertised either on your school website, or you might hear about them through emails or kind of things, that the school will have ways of alerting you to those opportunities. But another great way to learn about it too is to reach out to like upper year students and say like, hi, like, I'm really interested in this, like what's a good way that I can get involved. I know that like some of my friends, that's how they got involved in kind of learning about it from other people, and people say like, hey, this is what I did, and that's a really good way. But when you guys go to university or to college too, whichever is of interest to you, I can more so speak to the university environment, but I'm sure that colleges also have those types of research experiences and hands-on experiences that you guys that will allow you to participate in academic research, both at the university and college level, whatever your chosen path is. But and in finding out about that, I know that going even to student services, like I may think like the Career Counseling Center, which is another, when you go, it's a little bit overwhelming. I think like when I was in high school and I transitioned to my first year, I'm like, there's a lot. There is so much to kind of know. And I think that one really key piece of advice is really to take stock of your resources and like what's around you, like knowing like where you can go if you need help to study, where you can go if you're interested in looking for opportunities, who you can reach out to. So that's a really key piece of advice, I think, is really taking stock of all the resources that you have. But those positions will be advertised to you, and that will be like accessible information. And so when I was in my first year, I heard about a course called, and so you can take part in courses too that let you do that. I should say that as well. Heard of a course called the Research Opportunity Program that first year or students going into their second year could participate in. And some of these courses require an application, so I had to submit my CV and my grades to a professor. You have to kind of reach out to different professors after you research their particular labs and like what they do and if that interests you. So I applied like that. But there are other opportunities too for students to get involved, and I'm sure both of you being part of the STEM fellowship kind of already know a little bit about that. But even at the Toronto hospitals are always looking for undergraduate students to take on. Of course, like Sick Kids has great summer studentship. St. Mike's has great summer opportunities, and of course Sunnybrook, where I was as a student. And those are all excellent opportunities, and it's never too early, I think, to start learning about it or to research and network and reach out to professors whose work interests you, provided you can always look up a professor on hospital websites or even at the university that you choose to go to and introduce yourself and say, wow, like I find that your research is so interesting and I'm interested in learning more. Can we talk about it? And as a high school student, I should say, I did do some semblance of that for a project that we had for my chemistry class even. And I was very surprised and like it was very encouraging to just see like, professors are and researchers, they are very, always willing to talk to students who are interested in a career in research or in that field, and just to kind of give advice or to share some perspectives on what they're working on. So never be shy to do that. Like the worst that somebody could say is no, or that they might even explicitly say that they're not taking students or taking emails from students on their pages, but just to give it a try. And the worst thing that could happen is that you don't hear back from them. But it's always good to look around and learn and to ask, and sometimes you don't even know what really interests you. And so in that field as well, in not knowing, because sometimes you don't even know where to start, how like, especially when I was in grade 11, I didn't know about like this kind of world, and I had very limited kind of knowledge of what happens in a hospital research environment and these types of research environments that I'm now like really immersed in. But if I could go back and give myself that type of advice, I would try to exactly like take part in initiatives such as this. I think that the resources that you guys provide for students are fantastic. It's really great to just provide those resources, because sometimes I think when I was at that stage, I didn't think to look for these. I was kind of more focused on like what was immediately there in my school, that I wasn't really thinking about the future, like, where do I see myself in university? So exploring resources like this on YouTube, I think that YouTube is really taken off in that there's a lot more information about potential careers, or like getting involved in different research initiatives and different topics that can interest students. I think that's one. Another could probably be to look, I mean, like now there's like an abundance of online lectures and online seminars, even like conferences that, I'm sure that students in high school could attend to learn more about that, career fairs, university fairs, and those things are also a great way to learn about a university and all the resources and learning opportunities that they can offer students.
So with the ongoing pandemic, do you think that that's affected your ability to do your research, or do you think that will affect students who want to get into research?
That's a good question. The pandemic has really shifted a lot of things in terms of how research, especially in terms of how research is conducted at Sick Kids. I think that personally, I'm very fortunate that a lot of the research that we do in our research group can be done at home. I did have, work that involved patients and that involved kind of one-on face-to-face interactions with patients. And so, there are processes to mitigate that, and have methods of like reaching out through Zoom that are compliant with like privacy and ethics, that we as researchers can interact with patients face to face and talk to them and gather the information that we need from an interview perspective. I think things might be different if researchers are working with maybe biological specimens and have to be there in person, where with I believe the current stay-at-home orders that are in place for Toronto, I do have colleagues that are at the hospital that are able to kind of continue conducting their research. There are distancing guidelines that are being enforced so that people can be on site. But for individuals such as myself who can conduct research at home, that's largely how it's been happening. But, I say again that I'm very, very fortunate to be working in the team that I work with. We have a lot of just very passionate students and early career researchers that are on our team, and that are just very willing to kind of donate sometimes some of them just donate their time, and some of them are here for work study or other learning opportunities, and they're just wonderful passionate individuals who I think make the work from home environment a lot more easy to navigate, wherein it's sometimes hard when you're all at home or in different environments and you can't be in the same office and just kind of lean over someone's desk. But I think that we're making it work. And in terms of how, with your the other question about how COVID will impact the ability for students to get involved with research, I can definitely sympathize that it has made it difficult. I think that, I know that Sick Kids has unfortunately had to cancel their, in-person summer research. But I actually do believe that they are taking on summer students now, I should say. But last year, I believe, when the pandemic had started in March, and then we transitioned into summer. We weren't able to take on summer students. So I can imagine that there are obstacles, but I can say that we, in spite of that, in spite of the fact that, you know, things get canceled, in-person research is suspended, and you know, we're living in a very different time. I would encourage students to definitely try to use that to your advantage, because the way research is being conducted and the way that these lab environments are kind of, or like the lab environment, or like the research team setting has really changed, and I think that students can really leverage that to their advantage. I think that we've, you know, I was so surprised at how many, at just like the level of commitment and how many students that we've still had reach out to us and say like, hi, I'm like still really interested in working with you, and you know, I want to be a part of this. And we've been, again, so grateful to be able to have people who just donate their time for the sake of wanting to learn more about the field that we work in. And so I think that I can definitely see that working in other research environments, perhaps not environments, of course, that might require students to be more hands-on. So if we think about wet lab things that might require you to actually be in a lab and work with specimens, that might be a little bit more difficult to get involved in. But I still think, you know, with COVID kind of changing the pace of things, it's a great time to just reach out and say, is there anything I can do to get involved? How can I learn more? How can I, like, even just reaching out to say, I think your research is really cool, and you know, I would love to have the opportunity to work with you. I think that goes a long way. We've had team members who are working with us now who have reached out just in that exact way. And it's, I think that from my perspective, being a coordinator of this lab, seeing somebody who is so passionate and willing to go the extra mile to say, you know, here I am, what can I do? I think it goes a long way. And I think you might be surprised at like how that works out. And of course, again, like the worst thing that somebody can say is no, which is fine. And, you know, who knows, maybe down the line, they'll remember you. And when we kind of resume to the way we were pre-pandemic, that might really work in your favor. So for students that are still interested in getting involved in research, just, you know, do your homework, have a look at the institution's website and their policies around taking students. Maybe if you're interested in working with a particular supervisor, have a look at their individual pages or bios, and they might post information or have information about the state of their research there. But, you know, no, it doesn't hurt to reach out. It doesn't hurt to send an email and to say, what can I do? But, you know, just keep your eyes open online, check the hospital sites if you're interested in working at a hospital, if you're interested in working at an institution, keep checking their website, send an email. And if all else fails, let's just say that a research opportunity doesn't come your way, because that's also a possibility that you know, that we should prepare for, let's just say, worst case scenario, because we are living in some very uncertain times. There are still an abundance of ways to contribute and to grow yourself, of course, as you both know, and like the initiatives such as this, where you can arrange virtual kind of volunteering or reaching out to your community virtually or contributing. There are other ways, I think, to grow yourself and to prepare for that career outside of research and in contributing in ways such as this, which I think is fantastic.